Moving to a new country can, take a whole lot of, mental stress. It can also drain you of a lot of things. And, it comes with its challenges. It's not just the sweet part of the fact that I'm moving to a new country, but also it's also to acknowledge the fact that it would come with some form of challenges. And in this video, all I'm going to be talking about in this video is all about the challenges faced as a new immigrant and tips that I have seen that people have used and I also have used for survival. Hello everyone, welcome back to my YouTube channel. It's your girl Suleeha here today again. If you are new on my channel, thank you so much for stumbling on my videos. If you're a returning subscriber, you know how it is. I say welcome back. So my channel is all about lifestyle, general discussion, talks, general talks on immigrating to Canada, relocating to Canada, and tips on relocation to Canada. If my content interests you, please feel free to stick around, subscribe, and join this growing family. Thank you. The first challenge that I think that most immigrants face when they immigrate to Canada is accommodation. We are coming from a new country. We are just coming to a new country. We don't know how things work. We don't know how, the accommodation renting laws, the accommodation laws, how the landlords are able to give accommodation to people in Canada. So as a new immigrant, the first issue that we face is the fact that landlords are not willing to give accommodation or rent out their properties to people that are just coming newly into the country because they are worried and they are scared with the fact that how are you going to pay your next rent? Do you have a good credit score? They just want to be sure that in some form of way you would be able to pay your next rent. And we coming from a new country, we don't have a job, we don't have anything as such as, credit history. We just want to get a place where we can put our heads. And we are not able to because of the conditions, the amount of document they request from you because you want to get an accommodation, you are not able to provide it as a new immigrant. So what are the tips and survivors that have worked for people that have also worked for me? The first thing that I will talk about is the fact that you can use a realtor. There are people. Speak to your friends, speak to the people that you know here, and also speak to communities. There are realtors that can assist you in getting a place without having to provide all of those documents. But it comes with it comes with its own disadvantage as well, because most of these realtors will tell you that you would need to pay a full year rent or you would need to pay 6 months rent. If you are lucky enough, you would find one that would allow you to pay for first month and last month. And the way it works in Canada is if you want to rent an accommodation, the landlords would collect the first month of the rent and they will also collect the last month of the rent. It runs for a year. If you intend to break the cycle in the middle of the year, it comes with some form of consequences. So that's one of the tips. Find a realtor. The second thing that I would advise is if you have family members here that know somebody that knows somebody, we always have somebody that is willing to let out their basement, for new immigrants without having to provide all of those documents. They would only allow you to pay the first and the last rent as well, and you are good to go. You've bypassed the issue of, having to provide credit score, having to provide a job employment. So that beats that part out of it. Family member that has a friend that is willing to let out their basement. So another thing that I would advise is if you're if you're financially buoyant, you are confident that you can pay a full year rent, you can go ahead with doing that as well. It won't cost you anything, and at least you know that you have the peace of mind to the fact that you are not going to be owing anyone for a whole full year. So it's nothing to be worried about. Some people get here, they lodge into an Airbnb and they try to find an apartment on Facebook Market, Kijiji, rental.ca, and lots of other places that you can find accommodation, and they are able to successfully get accommodation because they are able to negotiate well with the landlord. So I hope that those tips would be able to, help you in securing the accommodation of your dreams. And I used to say something, because accommodation runs from 1 year in this country, I always advise people not to always settle for less. Go for something that you know that you'll be comfortable staying in even after a whole full year. So that's on accommodation. The next thing that I would be talking about in terms of challenges that most immigrants face is the cost of living. Where we are coming from, we don't spend dollars. We don't spend, especially people coming from Nigeria, we spend in Naira. And in Nigeria, we pay our house rent yearly. You can pay your house rent 1,700,000, 750,000. You pay that yearly. But in Canada, you are paying times 3 of that, or you are paying times 4 of that here in Canada for a month. So we all know, because when you wanted to start this journey, the intention was that you are going to a new country where the currency they spend in Naira is different from what they spend here. So what I used to advise people is that your proof of funds that you've kept somewhere, just when you are coming, make sure that it is readily available for you, because cost of living is very, very, very high. A lot of people would get here. You have, say for example, accommodation in places like I live in Ontario, so I'm going to be using Ontario as an example. So in places like Toronto, you can see a 2-bedroom flat for 2,500, 3,000, and when you move out of Toronto, you see a much more cheaper price. You can see for 2,000, you can see for 1,800. It all depends. So I would just say that when you are coming in, have the mindset of the fact that you are going to be financially drained. You are going to be spending a whole lot of money. So come with lots and lots of money, because cost of living is not cheap. For you to be able to, buy the things that you need, you would need to spend on those things. The mentality of the fact that, oh God, if I was in Nigeria, this thing will cost about 200 naira, but here it's costing you about $10. So all those calculation and everything, we have to leave it back behind, because when you move here, it's a whole different ball game. And considering the fact that there's inflation and all of that, it also affects Canada as well. So a lot of things has also gone up, so everyone is just trying to manage. So I would just say that one of the tip of survivor is the proof of funds that you've kept behind, or any monies that you've kept and saved behind. Just bring everything, because you are going to be needing lots and lots of it. I used to advise people, money is one thing that you can't get here and have the intention that you are going to get a job the next day so that you can survive. No, you need to plan. You need to plan to bring the money that you will spend here in Canada. So that's all about that as regards cost of living. Cost of living is high. To move around is high. To spend on Uber is expensive. So all of those things, you need to budget that. You need to put that in your plan. So that's one other thing that I find that new immigrants come here and they complain, oh, I didn't make a mistake coming to this country. I want to go back to Nigeria. I want to go back to wherever I'm coming from because it is expensive here. It's a thing that you've made up your mind to do. So you shouldn't get here and get discouraged as regards to the fact that cost of living is high. What I would advise is you prepare ahead for whatever it is that you will meet here. So the next challenge that I know that a lot of people face when they come into this country as a new immigrant is getting employment or finding a job. So as a new immigrant, when we applied for express entry, they tell you federal skilled worker, if you have the skills, apply, blah, 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 blah. I applied as a lawyer to come to Canada. My point was calculated because I was a lawyer in my country to come to Canada. But getting here, it's not rocket science. You don't get here and you immediately apply for a job and then they give you the job when you get here. No, you have to be able to find a transferable skills from what you were doing back home to be able to find a job that you can do pending when you get your desired job. Not to say that some people are not lucky to get into their field immediately they get to Canada. It's a challenge, yeah, quite all right. But some people are lucky to get a job that it is in their field immediately they land to Canada. But for some other people, it's a challenge. I, for example, I'm a lawyer. I cannot practice here unless I go through the procedure of licensing in Canada, which is not something that is simple. It takes a while. Am I going to be jobless all through the time that I'm here waiting to be licensed. No, I need to find the transferable skills that I have from that particular work that I was doing back from my home country, put it into another work, and then be able to find a job. So I feel like one other thing that I know that they talk about here is the Canadian experience. I wouldn't say that Canadian experience that they say is all that, because actually I got 2 jobs. When I got one before I landed into Canada, and I got another one when I landed into Canada. My resume was watertight. It had the content that needed to be there. And also the other thing was that I made sure to put all the keywords that I needed for that particular role. I went online, checked job descriptions, see what recruiters are looking for, and I added it into my CV. I got those 2 offers. I got those jobs. So it wasn't like I had a Canadian experience and I got those jobs. I actually got the jobs. So once your CV is watertight, it is included in, you have all of the things that you needed in your CV. I bet you would get that call from the recruiter. And like I said, it's a challenge, but people are surviving. People are getting those jobs. I will also say that you up your skills. Look at something that you are good at, channel that energy into that, pending when you can get a job before doing what you really desire. Like I said, I am a lawyer, but I cannot practice as a lawyer unless I am licensed to practice as a lawyer in Canada. So what am I going to do? I need to find out the things that I'm good at and then apply for jobs in roles that I know that I can do those jobs. So transferable skills, find your transferable skills, channel that into a new role and apply for those roles. Don't just sit down and say that, oh, because I can't find a job in my role and I'm just not going to do anything. No. And I can tell you categorically that there are lots and lots of jobs on LinkedIn. There are jobs on Glassdoor. Canada website has lots and lots of jobs. You can also check the website of the particular province that you are in. I know that there's Ontario as a place where you can search for jobs on, and I know of other places like Alberta and all of that. Like I said, I live in Ontario, and I will most likely talk about where I am at the moment. So that is that on job. The tips that you can do: find the transferable skills and channel that into a new role. Don't be so scared of the fact that I was a banker coming back from Nigeria, I was a this coming back from Nigeria. You need to start days of humble beginnings, like they say. You need to start from a particular scratch and then bring it up. A lot of people get discouraged because of the fact that they were earning a lot of money back home, and then they get here, they can't just do any job that they find. Nobody's telling you to do any job that you find. Up your skills, make sure you have the transferable skills, and then apply for other jobs. The next thing that I would be talking about as a challenge is childcare in Canada. Childcare, it is, number one, expensive. It is, oh my God. I was talking about getting a job in one of my videos. I got a job, 2 jobs, signed contracts, but I had to refuse. I had to decline because there was no one I was going to drop my child with. It was a fully remote job, don't get me wrong, a fully work from home job. But childcare was the problem. Let me take you back. When we got into this country, scratch that. Coming from Nigeria, we had lots of sisters, grandma, everybody, your friend, Emmy, my son, I'm coming. You can literally drop your child with anyone that you trust, because you know that they would certainly take care of your child for you. Here in Canada, it's not the same. There's no auntie, there's no uncle, there's nobody to take care of your child for you. And when you get into this country as a new immigrant, it's not like, if you have the money, yes, you can go to a daycare, pay $60-something per day for your child to be in daycare. Thumbs up. But I don't have that much money to spend at a daycare for a day. So what you do as a new immigrant is you call some daycare around, you ask about the daycare, if your child can join the waiting list, because here it's all about waiting list. Is there space? Can you take my child? Schools are not like that, because when they come into Canada, especially when they are of school age, they are able to register in school and start almost the next week. But when you have an infant, say you have a child that is 9 months, or you have a child that is 10 months like mine, it is a struggle. So what I had to do is I had to not take the job because the hours were really long, and I would feel terribly bad because I would see myself as a bad employee, yeah. I would see myself as a bad employee and also as a bad mom if I'm not able to take care of my child and I'm not able to do my work efficiently because of my son is distracting me all the time. So, but now I'm working towards getting him into a daycare so I can move on with my life, which I don't regret, or which is not a problem for me. But as a new immigrant coming into this country, you need to find a way to be able, if you have grown-up kids, good luck, like perfect. But if you have a child that is like mine, you can consider taking him to daycare almost immediately. Ask around, or are they daycare around? Walk into the daycare. What are their requirements? How would you be able to put your child in that daycare? How much would it cost to be able to put your child in that daycare? So all of this information are the things that you need to be able to start your life immediately you get in Canada. It might be hard. It might be really frustrating because every single thing that you do, you need to put your child into consideration. A lot of people have a way of managing with their spouse and also with them. But my child is so demanding that it literally just wants me all the time, which I'm trying to, of course, adjust at the moment. But that's on childcare. It's not the way it is in Nigeria. We don't have the uncles that we can run to all the time. Please help me with my child. You have to take the full responsibility of taking care of your child or children in this country, which might be a challenge for some of us. We might struggle because we are not used to that kind of lifestyle. We have people that we can drop our child to. So those are the tips that I can afford you. If you can find a good daycare that will take up your child for a very good fee, pending when you are able to, get onto a waiting list where you can put them at least for a stretch of 7 hours to 8 hours, and that would be awesome. That's one of the challenges that I find that most newcomers face. Another thing that I would want to talk about as a challenge for new immigrants in Canada is healthcare. Oh my God, it is terrible in this country. Not like it is terrible. We have it bad in some other places like that. But coming from the UK, where I was coming from, when my son is ill or when I'm not feeling fine, I pick up my phone and I call the GP, and then I get a day that day or most likely the next day. But here in Canada, it doesn't operate that well. Let me draw your mind back. When we came into this country, we wanted to register for OHIP, which is Ontario Health. I can't remember the full meaning, but I know that you register for healthcare to get your health card. The first thing that we did when we came into this country, we tried to apply and they said, no, you have to have something that is showing your proof of address, where you are living, and then by then we would be able to, issue you an health card. We didn't have a particular, I was at my sister, so we didn't have a, means to show that we have a proof of address at that time. And my husband, of course, he also doesn't have anything to show. So we had to go back that day. We went back home. And at that time, I was ill. My son was ill. I could not do anything. I was surviving on the medications that I brought from home and the medications I got from the pharmacy. And I felt like my son needed to see a doctor, but there was nothing I could do at that time. Yes, there was private hospitals. We could have gone to private hospitals if we wanted to. But then I was talking about registering for health card itself, to get the health card and to have access to health care. So we're able to get our bank statement after a month to open our health care and, be issued an health card, like they say. So one thing that I would say is, if you're a new immigrant coming into this country, one tip that I would advise is you can get an insurance for a particular month when you know that you need a quick access to medication. You can get an insurance from private insurance company, or you can, if you know that you are on a particular prescription, steady, you need to be on those medications, you can get your prescription when coming, like bring your medications to this country when coming, or you get a prescription so that when you get here, you are able to see like a doctor, like a walk-in doctor or something. There are walk-in clinics, quite all right, and there is also the emergency services. But the time that you are going to spend waiting there, you are going to probably spend your whole day. So I would just say that if you are the type that, you know, you need quick medications here and there, bring them when you are coming, so that it won't be a case of, oh, I've not seen a doctor, how are we going to see a doctor? Even the emergency service is very shitty, like they say. You would wait the entire time. So that is also one thing that I find as a challenge, especially for we coming. Like I said, I was ill for about, I would say that constantly for about 2 weeks, because it was on and off. I had hives, I had so many things. You know, it was until I went to the pharmacy, because I couldn't go to I couldn't go to the hospital. It was, I had to go to the pharmacy, and I spoke to the pharmacist. I know she was like, oh, it's allergy and all of that. And she gave me something that I was using consistently every single day, and it got better. So that's one tip that I would say. If it's either you get an insurance that you would be on for the moment, depending when you get your card, or if you have the time, you can do the walk-in clinic or the emergency services, depending on how urgent it is. And the most of it that I would recommend is, if you're on a medication, bring your medication, especially those people with kids. When I was coming, I'd make sure to buy 2 packs of paracetamol for my son. Not like there's no paracetamol here, but my son was used to a particular one, so that was the one I got. And then before we were able to, you know, buy the one here to see how it works with him and all of that. So that's on the healthcare service. Hi guys, so thank you so much for watching part 1. I didn't want the video to be too long as usual, so I would be uploading part 2 shortly. See you, bye.